For decades, the title of America's roller coaster capital has belonged to just a handful of states, Ohio being the obvious frontrunner, home to both Cedar Point and Kings Island, two parks that have shaped the roller coaster industry for generations. Pennsylvania isn't too far behind, boasting legendary parks like Hershey Park and Kennywood, each packed with decades of coaster history. Even California, despite being better known for heavily themed attractions, is home to Six Flags Magic Mountain, the park with the largest roller coaster collection in the world. But over the last few years, another state has quietly begun entering the conversation. Florida has always been one of the world's biggest theme park destinations, but for most of its history, visitors came for Disney magic, movie-themed adventures, and immersive experiences, not necessarily for elite thrill rides. That reputation, however, is beginning to change, as over the next several years, Florida's parks are expected to experience one of the largest periods of expansion in their history. Entirely new lands and several highly anticipated projects, namely new roller coasters, could dramatically reshape the state's coaster lineup before the decade comes to a close. If even half of these rumored and confirmed additions become reality, Florida may no longer be known as just the theme park capital of the world, but it could also become America's greatest roller coaster destination. Hello everyone, this is Velocity Coasters, and today I'll be making my case for why Florida may become the best state in the country for roller coasters by the end of this decade. To understand why this shift is happening, we first have to look back at how Florida's coaster scene evolved. Back in 1993, Busch Gardens Tampa opened the now-defunct Kumba. At the time, it completely changed what thrill rides looked like in Florida. Before Kumba, the state's major coasters were fairly modest, with rides like Scorpion, Python, and Space Mountain leading the way. While all of them were very important attractions, they were either cloned layouts or relatively small compared to what was being built elsewhere. But Kumba was different. It was bigger, faster, more intense, and uniquely designed specifically for Busch Gardens. For many enthusiasts, such as myself, it marked the moment Florida entered the modern coaster era. Throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, that momentum continued. Parks across the state added attractions like Montu, The Incredible Hulk, Dueling Dragons, Gwazi, Kraken, and eventually SheiKra, being America's first dive coaster. Florida was rapidly growing. The problem was that everyone else was growing even faster. As Florida built some genuinely great rides, parks in other states were redefining the entire industry. In 2000, Cedar Point unveiled Millennium Force, the world's first gigacoaster standing at over 300 feet tall. Just 3 years later, they shattered expectations again with Top Thrill Dragster, the world's first strata coaster, standing at over 400 feet tall. Meanwhile, Six Flags Magic Mountain introduced X, now known as X2, a ride so revolutionary that it still feels unique to this very day. And as the 2010s rolled around, the gap only widened. Florida certainly received some fantastic additions. Mako quickly became one of the best B&M hypercoasters ever built. Cheetah Hunt blended speed with incredible interaction through Busch Gardens landscape, and Haggard's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure revolutionized family thrill rides with multiple launches and immersive storytelling. But outside of these standouts, many of the state's new coasters for the decade were smaller additions, like Tigris and the two Fun Spot parks. Elsewhere, however, the coaster arms race was accelerating. Rocky Mountain Construction completely changed the industry with their new iBox hybrid coasters, being able to turn the old and unpopular wooden coasters into the best coasters in the park, such as Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Meanwhile, parks such as Carowinds and King's Dominion would join the exclusive Giga Coaster Club. Every few years, it seemed that yet another groundbreaking coaster seemed to appear somewhere outside of Florida. It seemed that we would always be one step behind in that department, but that all changed in the 2020s. Before we get into what completely changed Florida's trajectory, if you're enjoying the video, I'd really appreciate it if you consider subscribing. My goal is to reach 500 subscribers before my Cedar Point trip this September, and every subscription helps out the channel. Now, let's get back into the video. Within just the first half of the decade, Florida experienced one of the most impressive stretches of coaster additions anywhere in the world. SeaWorld Orlando opened 3 roller coasters in 3 consecutive years, and while Penguin Trek doesn't deliver on being a good addition, Icebreaker and Pipeline certainly do. Pipeline in particular successfully reinvented the stand-up coaster with entirely new trains. Then came Busch Gardens Tampa's biggest moment in years. After years of anticipation, Iron Gwazi finally opened in 2022, instantly becoming one of the highest rated roller coasters on Earth. It was the S-tier coaster that Busch Gardens was so desperately missing, and could rival the likes of Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Disney also entered the conversation with Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. While it focuses more on storytelling and intensity, its rotating trains, launches, and great pacing made it one of Disney's best attractions in recent memory. But arguably, the biggest game changer has been their rival, Universal Orlando. Velocicoaster didn't just become one of the world's best roller coasters. It proved that incredible theming and elite thrill experience could exist together without compromise. It immediately became the standard that many future coasters would likely be judged against. Then, just a few years later, Universal opened their new theme park, Epic Universe, bringing Stardust Racers into the state's lineup. Florida once again had a world-class dueling coaster, this time by Mack Rides, adding yet another elite attraction to an already growing collection. These 5 additions fundamentally changed the conversation about Florida's coaster lineup. They were no longer playing catch-up to the competition. They had actually started to compete with the top players, and the most exciting part is, we still have quite a few more insane additions to come. First up is of course Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift at Universal Studios Florida, finally giving that park something to rival the other parks in the area. Track work was recently just finished, so we now know the complete layout, and let me just say, some of these elements look phenomenal. The sideways stall over the concert venue, the Top Gun style top hat, and of course, the 170-foot tall twisted spike. These elements look great on their own, but the fact that you'll be drifting through them just adds a whole other level to them. Along with that, we now have to discuss the elephant in the room, that being Kumba's Revenge. With Kumba now retired and Busch Gardens teasing its replacement so heavily, it's difficult to imagine the park building anything small. Personally, I still believe the strongest possibility is a B&M Giga Coaster. It would finally bring Florida into the Giga Club, while also giving Busch Gardens something that it has always lacked, that being something with sustained floater airtime. Beyond that, there are still several other rumored additions. SeaWorld is heavily rumored to be adding another thrill coaster next, with the most likely option being a B&M Wing Coaster, based on the surveys that were sent out earlier this year. Although, they could shock us all with something like a Mach Striker or Vekoma Tilt, which either one would really elevate the park's lineup, giving it something to truly compete with Mako. Epic Universe also appears likely to receive an indoor Harry Potter broomstick coaster in the future, something that would almost certainly combine cutting-edge technology with Universal's signature level of theming. I haven't even mentioned Project Driftwood at Busch Gardens, likely being a launched Mach water coaster, a model that is rarely seen anywhere in the world. There's even the wildcard pick of Funspot, which while not likely, I could see them getting an RMC Raptor for one of the 2 parks. I'm not even going to mention Disney, as even if they announced a major thrill coaster tomorrow, history tells us that they wouldn't open it until at least 2035. I'm looking at you, Tron. Overall, if everything goes right, Florida could very well end the decade with a roller coaster lineup to finally dethrone Ohio as the best in the nation. Having all of these different models in the same state, most of them being within 2 hours of each other, would be unreal, and I'm sure it will only get better as the years go on. If you enjoyed this video, I would like to once again ask that you subscribe for more coaster news, reviews, POVs, and construction updates. I would also like to thank the channels that provided the copyright-free off-ride footage used in today's video. Their channels, along with all the music used, will be linked in the description below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.